Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of July 2nd, 2025. New fiscal year for the town. Here we go. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6, and any other applicable laws. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. All matters listed may involve a decision and possible vote. Roll call, please. Jessica.
Jessica Park.
Scott Sobey.
Paula Jean O'Neill.
Sandy Slavin.
And Michael Mercier.
I declare we have a quorum before we start the hearings. I'm going to say that the hearing for, that's right, Andrews, 7 Burgess Point, was continued until 7/16. It's now will be continued to 8/6. No discussions. The hearing for Welch, which was 2731 Cranberry Highway, was continued in 7/2. There will be 7/2. There will be a new continuance into 7/16. We take no discussion or comments on anything that has been continued. We will continue the 29 Camp Street. We have continued 3 Green Street. That's it. So in case you're here for those, there will be no discussion on those topics. And one thing before we get going, somebody on South Boulevard stripped the banking. I know you want your vista, but there's nothing there that was really tall. You stripped it down to the ground and nobody said a word. This is not fair to the town of Wareham and our citizens. This is not your property. It belongs to the town. Stop doing nasty things to our banking in Onset. Thank you. First hearing, please. I think my only comments.
All righty. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 520, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025, at 6 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for the Town of Wareham, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., for the installation of a gazebo, a chain link fence, and a crosswalk to improve pedestrian access in a riverfront area at Bessie Park, map 47, lot 1127 and 28, for Wareham. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, for the record, Bob Rogers.
Excuse me. I need a motion to open the hearing.
Motion to open hearing?
Second.
I have a motion that's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Please identify.
Bob Rogers, GAF Engineering, on behalf of the applicant, the town of Wareham. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Bessie Park. This RDA has basically 3, maybe 4, if you want to count a crosswalk. So these are improvements to pedestrian access and adding an amenity of the gazebo at the park. We staked out the center point of the gazebo in the field. We put some bean poles for the center of the proposed walk, which is adjacent to the Warren Harbor View restaurant. And then there's a chain link fence that's proposed right on that south side of the walk. So it's a concrete walk with a street crosswalk, and the gazebo with a new small section of sidewalk to the existing walk. It's basically, it's riverfront to the Wareham River, and it is land subject to coastal storm flowage. But it's a very flat site, and so there'll be some erosion control placement, excess material removed from the site, and it's a good project for the town. So I would answer any questions that you have.
I'll start with Michael. Questions?
What kind of erosion control measures are we thinking of putting in place there?
So we have the straw wattles specified. We don't want anything that's going to block pedestrians. and it is a flat area, but so there's a note number 2 for erosion control notes, and it's a heavy dash line on the plans.
All right, good, thank you. Madam Chair?
Paula Jean?
No questions, thank you.
Scott?
So the gazebo is going in at elevation of 7 feet, is that correct? The land there is at 7 feet elevation?
There's a 6 in front, there's a 7 in the back. I'm trying to see if we specified an actual elevation or match existing grades, see note 4. Yeah, so this is an architectured gazebo, so we've got a reference to architectural plans by others. See if there's a different note. It's tough when you have 5 different areas of note 4, right? Let me see if there's anything. We have, it's a 3-sheet RDA, but it's got to be at grade, it's got to be pedestrian accessible. So, and, we've got just a little bit of proposed grade shown as a 6 down on that low end, so.
And so standard kind of footings, 4 feet down below the frost level?
So it's going to be on a cement concrete pad, and the pad is specified to match existing grade, so it's a 27-foot diameter gazebo on a 37-foot diameter cement concrete pad. It is land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's no reason to try and infiltrate runoff, at this location at Bessie Park. So they really the whole job is to maintain the erosion controls and to, that excavated earth just needs to get loaded onto a truck and taken out of there before they, form for the pad.
Okay.
And then once the pad's in, it's just the wood construction on the pad, which they would usually wait about 3 weeks for the concrete to cure.
Okay, but
There's a substantial amount of information and details for all of this stuff, and particularly on the 3rd sheet.
so you don't have to go down to below frost line with any footings or anything? It's just on a pad?
Correct.
Okay. All right, no further questions, thank you.
Jessica?
No questions.
All right. Where's the new chain link fence going?
So the chain link fence is right on the south side of the cement concrete walk that's over by Danny's property.
There's one there already. You're putting in a new one?
So that's what's been specified, correct, with a gate that's opposite his gate. So, the fence that's there now is on his property by a few feet. And I wasn't involved in the planning process, but it seems like there's a desire to put a fence along the new sidewalk.
A
on the
second
side.
fence.
Correct.
Now, when you get down the sidewalk all the way to the river, what's going to happen to that access to the stones that are going into the river? Oh, sorry. I didn't want you to hear me coughing. At the end of this sidewalk on the Wareham River, there are a set of stones going down into the Wareham River. Will any be done to block that off to prevent access?
Well, not that I'm aware of. I mean, so because of Danny's Marina, and because of the public access to the park, there's gates along the waterfront so that people can get from Bessie Park if they want to or need to, and over and across the front of Danny's and onward to British Landing if they so desire. So I don't.
It says existing stone steps on the plan at the end of that sidewalk going toward Wareham River. They're right on.
Oh, right, yes, so yes, existing stone steps.
Will there be anything done to prevent access to the river on those steps?
No.
Right now, there's something wooden standing, there's nothing permanent planned for it, because right now, someone just put a wooden barrier there.
Yeah, I don't know who did that, but
Okay.
we're not
So-
proposing any any
change to that.
repair or any, yeah, we're not
So we have a
blocking it.
set of fences going along the stone pathway, and we have a set of fences on Warren's property with 2 feet between the two fences.
No, I want to say it's 10 feet. There's going to be a strip of land in between the two fences, which could be accessed from the sidewalk on Main Street. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, whose 10 feet does that belong to? Warren or the town of Wareham?
The town of Wareham,
So they'll have to be mowing it.
correct?
Okay. Now, question for you. Has this new set of stairs walkway been approved by the Wareham Historic District?
The new concrete sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I don't believe it has, I don't know.
Okay.
It-
Now,
have-
on the gazebo, when it was approved by the Wareham Historic District, I understand it was supposed to have shells in the drop zone, the drip zone, but I'm seeing a concrete pad.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I know. We don't care about the Historic District Commission here, it's outside of our preview, but I'm just asking you a question.
I'm not
because it was
making
a-
that leap. All I'm saying is that
It's just
the coordination for this was between Mr. Madden and Mr. Sullivan and
hours
whom.
and hours of discussing what will be in that drip zone. Okay.
Yeah. And so again, the only, I thought the same thing. Why wouldn't there be, and not necessarily shells, but, just a little crushed pea stone. But again, if you have high heels, if you're trying to, have it be accessible,
Well,
then,
is it the whole gazebo at ground level? So
yes,
there's no steps,
correct.
so that you can get into the
Just be a
gazebo
very
all the
little-
way around it?
Well, there's that specific sidewalk.
There's a sidewalk, yes.
Correct.
But
And
the
so-
idea is maybe it was decided that something as loose as stone or shells could be washed away with a high tide. and
Well, it would
therefore
be
they-
something that would need to be maintained. You'd
Okay.
have to supplement it once in a while.
I know I went off tangent, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Anybody online or in the audience would like to speak on this project? Do I have anybody online?
There were people online, but nobody wanted to.
Okay. So, Christine, your comments on the project?
I have no comments.
Okay,
So we would request a negative determination with...
we need to close the hearing, then we will ask for her recommendation.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. The hearing is closed. Now, Christine, your recommendation.
A -2, -6.
I need a motion.
Move to -2 and -6 for
Thank
this
you.
project.
I heard a
Also
second.
moved to a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Work, it's approved. No work until you get your paperwork, please.
Thank you so much.
Bob.
Thank you. Enjoy the 4th.
Oh, yeah. Antique Fair, Friday, 8 to 2, Town Green. Thank you. If you want something to do on the 4th. Okay, next one, please.
Okay. On the request for determination of applicability for Shelley Costa, 351 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. Construct a 32-foot by 20-foot deck on rear of house over concrete slab using a 2 by 8-foot pressure-treated PT 16-foot, 16 on center, 4 by 4 carrying beams, 12-foot sonotubes, 2 by 8 joist hangers, hanger nails, 4 by 4 post, 4 by 4 concrete bracking, PVC decking, joist tape, hinge fastener, PVC decking clips, 2 by 12 PVC trim, 6-foot lag, 6-foot through bolt, and channel house to deck flashing. Map 58, Lot C40, 351 Marion Road in Wareham, Mass. And finally, motion to open the hearing.
I have a motion.
So moved.
I have a second. I had the motion. I got it.
Oh,
I need a
sorry.
second. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is open. And who's here representing this project? Please come forward. Have a seat and identify yourself, please.
I am the homeowner, Shelley Costa.
And talk to us about this project, especially since you've already started it.
Well, they dug the holes. The project is just to enhance the outer back yard of the home. I bought it 5 years ago, fully renovated it. It was previously a foreclosed property. There's a concrete slab, so we're looking to build the deck over the slab and enlarge it to 32 by 20.
Okay, questions? Let's start with Michael.
Madam Chair, just my concerns about it, the project being started, that is. Thank you. Madam Chair?
Okay. Paula Jean?
I don't really have a question. I did see the holes dug, and I thought, uh-oh, and I saw the pressure treated piled up there. Oh, yes, sorry. So,
I do apologize for the holes. Initially, we did not know that it was a flood zone. When I bought the house, I was never advised that it was in a flood zone, never instructed to get flood insurance. So when we applied for the permit, the building inspector had told us we were good. It just had to go through the final steps, and then we got caught up with the Conservation Commission. So everything stopped as soon as we were instructed. The wood was delivered just because we had already ordered.
okay, thank you.
Scott?
I was just looking at the plans, the deck plan.
Yes, from the builder.
Do you have anything that's actually readable?
That was what was submitted to the building inspector. He reviewed it with the building inspector, and the building inspector approved that.
Well, we can't see grades on here. And there was a lot of detail that was read into the record about this, you know, what kind of joist hangers and what kind of nails and all that stuff, but it's really difficult to make an assessment of this based on this hand drawing. And we're not necessarily bound by what the Inspectional Services Department will accept for plans. I would like to see a better deck plan, honestly.
Okay.
So I can see where it is. I can't tell from this where anything is going. I'm not sure what to do with this, honestly.
Jessica? Anybody comment on it? This is an RDA. We do not need engineering plans on it. And to me, the positioning of the holes in the ground tells us the dimension of the particular deck. I'm not looking for any engineering plans, but Christine, your comments? Other than they started early.
Yeah, I don't have any comments other than that.
Do you think of a reason to have more detailed plans?
When you go out to the site and you see, like you said, where the holes were dug, it's very obvious. So I don't really think that you need something more detailed, but that's up to the commission.
Yes, okay.
Well, I have some additional questions then.
Then, okay, ask your question.
So decks can be built in a number of ways, including cantilevering. So the holes can be misleading because if a deck is cantilevered, then it doesn't have to be ending at where the holes are. I can't tell from the plan if it's cantilevered or not.
I mean, I apologize, I'm the homeowner, so some of the verbiage that you're using is not something that is in my wheelhouse. So if you can just explain what cantilevering is or what it
Yeah,
means.
so if the deck comes up to the edge of where all right, so the holes can be built,
Yes.
dug, so that a post goes down in it, and the edge of the deck finishes at where that post comes up. Or you can build the deck so that the joists of the deck extend beyond where the posts are, and that's called a cantilever.
Okay,
So the holes really don't tell you anything unless you know the plan.
okay. What I can verbalize, and may not be what you're looking for, so I apologize, is it's going to be a 32 by 20, and it's going to be a two-step off. So from the edge of the top decking, it'll be 2 steps down to the grass.
Well, that still doesn't tell me about the deck
That's
itself.
what I can explain from what my construction knowledge is, so I apologize.
Okay.
I mean, we did submit the plans like a few weeks ago, so if there was additional information needed, I would have been happy to gather that for you. It just was not brought to my attention that any changes to the plan needed to be made.
Well, that's,
Anything that was requested, I did communicate openly with Christine, and anything that was requested, I submitted.
Okay, is there anybody online to comment on this? Anybody in the audience to comment on this? If someone's comfortable in closing the hearing,
Motion.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The hearing is closed. Christine, your recommendation?
So I have a recommendation, but if the commission would like to continue it because you wanted to see more detail, that would be up to you. But my recommendation would be a -3, -6 with that $200 fine for starting the work before it was permitted.
-3 and a -6. Someone want to make that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion for
Second.
-3 and 6 and a $200 fine. I heard a second. All in favor? I'm going to go Michael,
Aye.
Paula Jean,
Aye.
Scott,
no.
Jessica. Sandy, yes. We're 4-0, 4-1-0. It's approved. $200 fine for starting the work ahead of time. When you speak to your builder, maybe he can help with it. All right, and before they continue, we get your paperwork from Christine in the Conservation Office.
Okay, so I pick it up from her in the
Yes.
office? Okay, and then do I pay the fine directly to the office?
You pay it to the clerks.
To the clerk's office? Okay.
So the clerk's going to know that there's a $200 fine coming when you get the paperwork from her.
Okay.
Okay,
And when do I pick that up from her?
sometime after the 4th,
Oh,
Sometime next week.
next week?
Yeah.
late next week.
Yeah, late next week's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good 4th, everybody.
Okay, well set.
Next one, please.
On the request for determination of applicability for Hubert West, 22nd 13th Street in Onset, Mass. Build a new 8 by 12 foot deck and stairs plus 4 by 4 landing stairs with footings and land subject to coastal stone flowage. Map 1, Lot 349, 22 13th Street in Onset, Mass. And motion to open the hearing?
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Who's here representing this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Hubert West. I am the contractor doing this project.
Okay. Looks like it's all done.
Pretty much, I was listening too much to the homeowner, telling me his daughter was coming and he wanted to rush. We started anticipating getting a permit, pretty quick, until I ran into the thing where I realized we had to go to conservation. And that's what happened, and it's not the best position to be in, but that's where we're at.
So you started and then finished, realized you had to come for conservation, then finished it anyway.
Yes, I
Yes.
did.
Okay, so expect a $200 fine for starting it before approval. And you are the contractor. My recommendation, you tell the homeowner,
Yeah.
there is no street sign, no number on the house. And there's a new bylaw in the town of Wareham that requires all homes to show their street number.
To be honest with you, there was a number. I had the house pressure washed, and the number was removed when it was pressure washed.
Then you're going to have it.
I'll have to put it on. I'll
back.
put it back, yes.
Because then I
absolutely.
won't report you to the building inspector for not having a number
The
on it.
number was there until maybe about 4 days ago,
Okay,
so I'll put the numbers back.
Thank you.
absolutely, Yes.
questions. I will start with Michael.
Again, just like the last one, you addressed my concern already, thank you.
Paula Jean.
No questions. The missing number explains why I went back and forth for quite a amount of time on the street thinking where is 22, so
I'm sorry.
mystery solved.
Scott?
I have no questions, but I will state that this is not an engineering plan, but it's easy to see, and you can actually read it.
Yes, I understand. It's a, yes.
I drew
Thank you.
it.
Thank you very much,
Yes, as
Mr.
opposed
West.
to a handwritten. Okay, Jessica?
No questions.
Christine, comments?
Yeah, I had a hard time finding it too. No, I don't really have any comments aside from the fact that it's been done already as well after speaking in the office with you about all of that.
Yeah, well, when I spoke to you, a lot of it had been done, and there was just so much stuff around. I just say, well, I know if I get fined, I might as well just get the stuff out of the way. And he's telling me his daughter is coming, and I'm trying to accommodate, and I'm trying to get the, and I'm just like,
Well, you did a good job cleaning up the debris after you took down the old deck.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody
Fell
comments?
down on his own, actually.
Comments online or in the audience?
All right, motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion, and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed. Christine, your recommendations.
-3, -6 with a $200 fine for starting the work without the permit.
I move that we approve it after the fact for -3, -6 with a $200 fine.
That's the motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. It's done. Get your paperwork from Christine, even though it's after the fact. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Have a good 4th.
You too.
Next, please.
All right. On the request for determination of applicability for Kathleen Rose O'Neill, 23A Barn Street in Wareham, Mass. Applicant is proposing to remodel interior kitchen, bathroom, new flooring throughout, paint throughout, new plumbing and new electrical, maps 163A, lot 50A, 0, 163A, 23A Barn Street in Wareham, Mass. Motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstain. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Guess not.
Okay,
Table it for now, or
I guess we then make a motion to continue until 7:16.
motion to continue? Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll continue to 7:16, and I hope the person, whoever it is, states out the porch and ramp, because it was not staked.
I'm gonna give them a call on Monday.
Okay, so we're continued until 7:16.
All right, next one.
Next one, please.
All right. On the request for determination of applicability for Delbert LaLuke, 2 Central Avenue, Wareham, Mass. Installation of above-ground pool within property and land subject to coastal zone flowage. And motion to open the hearing?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. And who's here representing this project? Please come forward. I'm sorry, that hurts, just watching you. Please identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Delbert LaLuke.
And talk to us about the project.
Project is just the installation of an above-ground pool, which is portable, that can be removed in a 1 to 2 days' notice if need be. It has a cantilever deck. The actual, if you look at the plan, the actual swimming area is 8 by 6.
And how many gallons of water does that take?
3,260, if I remember correctly, because I have to have it filled once he starts the process.
Okay, Michael,
I have no questions, thank you.
Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Scott,
No questions, thank you.
Jessica.
No questions.
My comment was that Understand, you will have it filled from other source, not your pump, not your town
Yes, I have
water.
to.
And you have them drain it. It cannot be drained on this property. It
Yeah.
has to be pumped out. So
Okay.
the
That's-
condition is that you fill it and drain it from an outside source.
I have to fill it partially from my domestic source, okay? To
Yep.
get the bottom of the liner
Nice.
to expand.
Yep.
Okay, and then from there, I have to fill the rest of it. And I've gotten a service in Westport that I'm in contact with.
Great. Christine, your comments on the project.
You had my comment.
Anybody online or in the audience would like to speak to this project? See and hear none? I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
And I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. Christine, your recommendations.
-3, -6, with having it drained and filled from outside sources.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. Yeah, got it done. See Christine for your paperwork, and then you're off and you have it in time for the summer.
Drain outside source.
Next one, please.
All right. On the request for a notice of intent for Jason Zimmer, 195 Bondale Road, Buzzards Bay, Mass. The proposed project is an ecological restoration project. The project will restore the degraded former cranberry bog into a diverse, more naturally functioning ecosystem with dynamic, connected, and self-sustaining habitats, including a restored stream, wetlands, and sandplain grassland uplands. The restored stream supports herring migration and salter brook habitat. The project also involving temporary erosion and sedimentation controls, temporary staging areas, and water control systems, installing stop logs at Bartlett Pond that will remain in place to allow the pond to fluctuate naturally to restore coastal pond shore habitat, daylighting a renaturalized channel by removing culverts, berms, and consolidated hand-dug ditches to the renaturalized and relocated stream to capture cold water inputs to support trout habitat, installing large wood debris structures to enhance habitat, and remeandering the new channel to stream function.
Okay,
Matt.
thank you. Wait a minute.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, all right. That's fine, okay. And just to wrap this up, map 125, lot 1001, 1017B, 1018B, CA Red Brook Wildlife Management Area, 265 Barker Road in Wareham, Mass. And motion to open the hearing.
I have a motion to open.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. And please identify yourselves as representing this project.
Hi, my name's Andrea Judge. I'm a senior water resources engineer with Interfluve, and we're the designer representing the
Judge?
applicant. Yes, that's JUDGE.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Quintal, Senior Restoration Ecologist with Buzzards Bay Coalition. I'm a project manager and technical input for the project, and we also have someone on Zoom.
Okay, Sarah, spell your last name for the
Sure.
record.
Quintal's Quintal.
I have a point of order. The link for this project goes to Delbert LaLuke's.
Yeah, same.
So Christine, could you send us, either fix the link or send us the packet for this NOI 136?
Can you
Yeah.
go to the page and put the,
And who's online?
We have Jason Zimmer online.
Go to where?
to the page
I didn't get that because of
and search?
Okay, so we're working with the,
technical.
So
all right,
the main page.
quite a project.
Here.
Yay!
Is it
If
ever?
whatever happened down at Horseshoe Dam, I expect the same thing here. And a Cushnet, and great restoration projects. Who wants to talk it? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can kick things off. So, again, we're proposing an ecological restoration project as a stream daylighting project. The project involves removal of 8 culverts and 6 earthen berms. So right now, the project, it is on the side of the Century Bog within the Red Brook Wildlife Management Area. The site in general has been, degraded and impacted through, years of agricultural activities. So right now, what we're proposing to do is to essentially de-channelize these ditches and restore it to a more naturally functioning stream with meanders, enhancing the habitat in terms of capturing cold water inputs to, protect the cold water resource and support Salter Brook habitat downstream, enhance fish passage up to White Island Pond Dam, provide a more diverse, self-sustaining wetlands through earthwork on site, removal of some of the pitch pine upland vegetation, and we're proposing to restore that with a number of different, wetland communities throughout the site in general. There's also a number of existing maintenance drives that we're proposing to decommission on the south side of the site, and that will hopefully, deter unwanted ATV users, and that's a secondary objective of our project as well. I do have a USB. I can share some photos. I spoke in advance with Christine. We can share some photos if that's, helps further the discussion.
So it's going to flow into the White Island Pond? No, it's coming out of the White Island Pond down to the Barrett Pond and the fish letter, and then it goes where?
Well, so the direction of the flow, you have White Island Pond to the northeast.
Yep.
Flow comes out of White Island Pond and currently goes through the complex of the bogs, at some point splits into two hand-dug ditches. The ditch to the south is a temporary herring channel, so that provides access to the herring that are migrating up to White Island Pond Dam. Then the channels reconverge, and flow is received also from Bartlett Pond Dam, which is to the west. So, just given the lay of the land with these straight ditches, the water's, spread throughout the site. We're proposing to consolidate the water and capture more effectively the cold water inputs from the north side of the site. And then in terms of the treatment at Bartlett Pond Dam, there is a coastal plain pond shore habitat that's on the north side of the site that we're looking to restore as well through installation of stop logs to allow the pond to naturally impound based on the water conditions throughout the year and the seasons. So I do have the USB. I can share that if
Christine, can you?
Yeah, I can actually.
we have some photos and
So
plans.
where does the water flow once it goes through this complex?
It leaves from the south side of the site through a culvert at straight into Red Brook.
Okay.
Yeah, right at the south mouth. So from the south, I would say the southwestern side of Century Pond Dam and upstream, up to just right before White Island Pond Dam is our area of the project.
Then if it comes out of Red Brook, it flows into Buttermilk Bay?
Eventually. yeah.
Eventually, I'm trying to figure the flow of, okay. Sorry.
Should I give
Quite a
this to
project.
Christine?
How many years?
The very first, so it's been previously permitted, so it was previously permitted a number of years ago, 2015, I believe, and it was not able to be constructed at that time because there was not enough construction funding. We have since gone back and been able to secure an America the Beautiful grant, as well as several other grants that together will be able to fully implement the project once it's permitted again. So over these past few years, it provided an opportunity to sort of take a fresh look at the data and collect a little bit more detailed information to better inform the design and watch the site since it's been retired. And some of the data that has been very helpful in that has been some updated GPR data, which better shows where the pre-existing peat from the original wetlands occur on the site. And so that really helps direct the wetland restoration towards those areas that have that deep underlying peat that have the best chance at successful restoration to self-sustaining wetlands. That combined with, there's been more information concerning where we get the most cold water, groundwater seeps coming into the site. And because Red Brook is very significant for sea-run brook trout, we really want that cold water habitat. And so, whereas currently the sort of temporary herring ditch that was constructed when the site was in its last phases of farming, that location has not worked out very well for the fish. It's not taking advantage of those cold water inputs that are more prevalent on the northern side of the site. And it's also the way that it is laid out, it's very, very flat, and so his vegetation management inside that channel has been a challenge. And so all of that, there's been a myriad of technical partners on this project, several individuals from Mass Wildlife, Natural Heritage, Ducks Unlimited, Mass Audubon, in addition to the engineering team, which has been Interfluve, who have designed and led to construction numerous cranberry bog restoration projects in Massachusetts. So we really do have a stellar team of technical partners on this project, and that given that second chance to really take a look at all the hard data out there and do some tweaks to the design, I think has been really helpful.
Wow. You're glutton for punishment. Okay, we got some pictures coming up, but just a lot of work. Okay, I know there's no easy way to see this land. There's no easy one road and one path in. Is there any place that we as a commission can see a piece of the land easily accessible? And I don't know about you, but I would love to visit part of not the whole, I'm not going to go over the whole 73 acres? Yeah, 72.5 acres. I don't have that walking, but something that would be easily accessible from someone's backyard or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually, Christine, if you could advance the slides, there is a parking area that is easily accessible, and that's near 265 Barker. And yeah, Barker Road. And from there, you can broadly see the site.
Is there a gate there? We've been to this site. Have we been to this site before? Because I think we looked at something in which a wall collapsed or something. Maybe, I thought it was, and I crawled under the fence to see it. It was up against White Island. And there was a brook coming through. Maybe, I don't know. Michael, do you remember any of this? Because
As far as the cranberry bog, way out there, that'd be a long
Well, it
time
was
ago. That may have been before I was on the commission.
Hi, can you hear
I
me?
crawled underneath the fence, the gate, in order to see the property, and I thought it was this one. Because it was
Are you
just
able
as
to
the
hear me
road
online,
turns
or-
to dirt on Barker. Barker? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Barker.
Just before, just as it turns, and it takes a hard right, there's a gate there, and it's that property that's part of this. I'm asking, I think so. So where's the parking lot?
The 265 Barker Road brings you to where there are a couple of existing buildings on the property and a parking area that there's no gate preventing anyone from
Okay.
being able to drive in and park. And then there's a pipe gate that leads down to the cranberry bogs, which are very easily able to be walked by. So you can't drive through the gate, but you can certainly walk around the gate to be able to go for a walk. And the site currently is used by walkers and other hunters and so forth.
Also wanted to mention that Jason Zimmer with Mass Wildlife sounds like he's ready to chime in
Okay.
as well, and we hear you, Jason.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to chime in. The spot you're remembering going to is right where Barker Road crosses Red Brook. There's always a puddle there when it rains, but there was a significant washout on the side of the road that went into the brook that I think the town DPW may have repaired. So I think that's the location, and that's way up at the northern,
Way up to the tip.
yeah, right where it says construction access, just above equipment shed is where you're thinking of.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So,
In terms of, I think it's depicted on this slide, in terms of a nice accessible area to view the site, I think the area noted as parking area and equipment shed, as Sarah mentioned, there's no gate that's prohibiting access to that parking area. The dirt drives, there are gates preventing access through there for vehicles, but lots of visitors that frequent the site go around the gates, so they are just difficult to drive vehicles around, I would say. So that's one area, and then alternately, there's a secondary access that is labeled on the western side of the site, that's north of Bartlett Pond. So on our plan where we have the label that says Barker Road, we have denoted within our limit of disturbance an alternate construction access. So I think there's less space there to pull off, but it's walkable within the site if you wanted to get views from both ends of the site, so.
I would like, if it's at all possible, to have a guided tour as opposed to individually going out and thinking we're seeing what we're thinking of, so that maybe it's something you can arrange with Christine, who can then coordinate with us, because I would love to have somebody else tell us what we're looking, show us what we're looking at. Not all of it, just a portion of it. I'm certainly not. Oh, darn. Okay.
Yes, we can certainly schedule a site visit to
Yes.
enable everyone to have a look at the site.
Josh, did you have anything to say on the project? Jason, did you have anything to say on the project?
No, nothing in addition. I think they covered most of it. The biggest thing that I think they both alluded to is, over the past 10 years, when we first had this permitted, there weren't very many cranberry bog restoration projects that had been done. And having the ability to use the lessons learned from, a number of projects that have been done all over southeastern Mass and even on Nantucket has allowed us to really tweak the design where I think it's going to be, much higher likelihood of success with the restoration project.
What was the last cranberry bog you restored? Was it Mattapoisett?
There's been
Or
two.
Cushnet?
So Mattapoisett was completed last year, and Windswept Bog in Nantucket was just recently completed as well.
And Interfluve, we have one that's in progress in Harwich, and then two that wrapped up this year, one in Harwich and one Upper Coonamessett, which is actually, I think, finished this year as well.
And heads up, we've got one coming down our way off of Crooked River. I don't know who will be leading that project, but that is another bog restoration.
Yes.
I keep saying Crooked River. There's a name for it.
Jack's Marsh.
Jack's Marsh, thank you. Well,
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there are three now before us. One is in an early stages of planning, and then there's Mark's
Cove is another.
Mark's Cove is another one. And then this would be the third one that I'm aware of that is currently before us. Can I ask questions?
please.
So some of the bogs were constructed differently. Some bogs are constructed differently than others. Some have an underlying clay layer to hold the water, and some of them just have deeper sand. Have you done the coring to figure out whether this has a clay layer underlying the sand layer?
Yeah, so there, I think Sarah had mentioned this previously, so because the project had initially started in 2015, we had leveraged that data that was collected at that time. In 2015, there was coring in isolated areas throughout the bog complex, as well as GPR, or ground penetrating radar evaluations, to try to delineate the subsurface layers in that time frame. And then in, I believe it was 2022, there was an additional ground penetrating radar study. And then beyond that, we also performed probes, limited probes on site to substantiate the data that we had previously. And
did you find the clay layer underneath? Or what are the, just tell me what the strata look like.
Yeah, so there's approximately, across the bog surface, there's approximately 2 feet of sand that was placed through the farming activities. And then beneath that, there are areas of peat deposit that range in depth up to 18 feet in depth. And then beneath that, it's a sand,
Okay.
virgin sand material.
So will there be extensive excavation then to expose the peat? Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have some areas that we're proposing sand removal. So our objective isn't necessarily to remove and disturb the peat. In some areas, we're proposing sand removal to lower the ground surface to reconnect the water and restore some of the hydrologic conditions to, jumpstart the wetland to come back. In other areas, the sand removal is a very expensive endeavor across the site. So in lieu of sand removal, we're proposing mixing just to break through that up top sand removal and essentially water it down with the underlying peat. So we're breaking it up and reintroducing some of the native seed bank so that can have an opportunity to take off. And then some of that material is also going to be used to fill in the lateral ditches throughout the site.
Yeah, so by reseeding, so I know that in some of these restoration projects, all they had to do was remove the top, and the seeds that were there from before the cranberry bogs were established, they germinate. And is that what you are envisioning for this, or are you bringing in new seed?
Yeah, so our experience based on some of our other projects that we've done is exactly that. Given the opportunity, once that native seed bank is exposed within the underlying peat, it's going to take off very quickly. So I think we also have some drone photos from the Cold Brook Preservation Site. You can see from the drone photos through the progression from pre, during, and post-construction, that within the next growing season, a lot of the site had naturally revegetated. So our plan is to rely on natural revegetation, but as part of that, we also include plantings as well, target strategically placed plantings.
So just to expound on that a little further, I think going through some of the photos of another project would be helpful if possible. But so within the bog, so we'll be using different techniques to restore the site. So in certain areas, that sand will be getting scraped down, and that will help reveal some of that underlying peat. But removing all of the sand that's been placed historically over the site surface is prohibitively expensive at this scale. And so we're basically proposing different habitat zones that range from some open water areas where we will so areas where we have existing farm ponds, for example. From those farm ponds, we'll be able to grade the slopes back a little bit and create some actually additional coastal plain pond habitat associated with scraping back of some of those steeper sided farm ponds that are there now, and then create areas where there's more of a lower growing marsh fen habitat. In other areas, it will be more of a Atlantic white cedar to red maple swamp type habitat, where there's more topography, there's more hummocks and mounds and pools. And so in those areas, that's where the sand really gets stirred. So instead of removing all the sand, we're basically taking the excavator bucket, scratching down to that underlying peat, bringing up that bucket and kind of smushing it around, if you will. And with that process of that scraping down to the peat and bringing it back up, you're breaking through that lateral sand layer, reincorporating some of the peat to bring in some moisture into that layer, and very importantly, bringing up some of that native seed bank that will allow the native wetland vegetation to rebound on its own without having to put down more seed mix across the entire site. And then container plantings will be used strategically to help jumpstart particularly things like trees that we want to get established, particularly along the restored stream channel, where we really want to try and get the trees growing quicker to start shading that stream, again, to bring down the water temperatures for the trout. So it'll be a combination of the container plantings in the bogs, but not throughout every area. In some cases, there may be certain zonations of plants that we really like that won't get disturbed. So we, as we get close to construction, we do plan on cordoning off and kind of roping off areas that do have a nice assemblage of trees and shrubs that we think are good just the way they are, and those will stay as individual islands. But then the upland areas adjacent to those bogs, where particularly the areas where we are filling perimeter ditches and creating a transition zone from the bog surface up to the upland, and a pretty significant size sand borrow pit that was on the site. Those are the places where we're going to be bringing the sand that is excavated off of the bog surface will get placed in those ditches and in that former borrow pit. On those upland areas, we don't expect as much of a native seed bank to be readily available, so those areas we will hydroseed with sandplain grassland native seed mix.
How much heavy equipment will be brought into the project?
Quite a bit. It is messy, and this is one of the reasons why we really want to show you some pictures.
Were they in the process of mixing the sand and the peat in that picture?
Yes, and
I think I can speak while Christine's,
That
oh
one.
yeah, there we
One
go.
in the red, yep. So is that what it looks like when you're
Disaster.
mixing?
That would be typical conditions. So what you see in that
Moving a pipe.
slide 13 is stream channel construction, and this is actually quite similar to what we're proposing at Red Brook. So this is the reconstructed channel meandering. We're proposing to introduce large wood throughout the stream channel to enhance the habitat and encourage, gravel sand separation throughout the channel. And, we would expect the work to proceed with just medium-sized excavators, mud mats to,
What does the fish do when you're doing all this construction? Do you keep them out?
Yeah, so this site is actually really, I guess, first of all, so we did coordinate, and we do have a determination from the DMF with time of year restrictions that are going to be, followed during construction. Given that we're proposing to construct these channels in a separate location from where that current that temporary herring channel is, it really presents us with a great opportunity to do that work, offline.
Before you remove the channels.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is, an opportunity. We can do our channel work offline while we have our main channel through that temporary herring run. In terms of, the water control systems, I think we would anticipate, the best management practices, the anti-tracking mats at all our entrances, while the contractor is, essentially switching gears or flipping over the natural channel to the new channel from that straightened ditch. We would anticipate silt curtains and some coffer damming as well.
So
So,
Can you put up the existing resource area that shows the straight line channels? No, one above it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like today. Then go to the next one, please, that has all the squiggly, that's what you're proposing, is that type of flow from White Island and Bartlett Pond down into Red Brook Stream into Buttermilk Bay.
So, yeah, I think one
Oh,
point of
those trout will be very happy.
Yeah, I think so. Just one minor point of clarification. So we will have that main stem channel that extends from White Island Pond.
Okay.
At Bartlett Pond, we're proposing to place stop logs that we anticipate essentially remaining there, more or less permanently, to hold water within Bartlett Pond, and that'll allow the water level to naturally fluctuate. So while we do have a bank there to receive any discharges from Bartlett Pond, if the water level, becomes elevated to a certain degree, we're not anticipating, flow through that downstream channel. All the flow would be really, we would experience within the main stem of Red Brook. So the longer squiggly line that you see on the north side of the site.
And if I could add to that, because it's a bit confusing and a bit counterintuitive. Why are we putting boards in a culvert for a pond? How does that seem natural? It seems a little bizarre, right? And so this was something that we spent actually quite a bit of time talking about with our partners, including staff from Natural Heritage, who are very interested in restoring coastal plain pond habitat in Bartlett Pond. So originally, before any herring harvesting ever happened in the town of Wareham, Bartlett Pond was not connected to Red Brook. So in the 1700s, there was an initiative by the early town settlers to expand the natural headwaters of Red Brook, which used to be about a half a mile downstream of the current location where Bartlett Outlet currently connects to Red Brook, so right at the outlet of the Cranberry Bog. That was just one big swamp way back in the day. But the initiative to get herring all the way up to White Island Pond spurred this initiative to really dig out a herring channel that then extended the headwaters a few more miles north beyond where they originally were. And that Herring Creek channel was extended to White Island Pond as well as to Bartlett Pond. So the channel itself was not a natural condition for Bartlett. And there's been mixed feelings between Department of Marine Fisheries and Mass Wildlife as to whether or not it even makes sense to bring fish into Bartlett, considering that it didn't originally have fish and it's naturally a coastal plain pond, which typically is void of most fish. So the strategy there with Bartlett and looking at the old marsh platform, it didn't used to be drained to the level that it's currently be drained now with the herring channel that was constructed to it. So there is a culvert now at that northeast corner, which is just below one of the Cranberry Bog cells. So at the very northern shore of Bartlett, it's not a natural bank. It's a much steeper bank than the rest of the pond because there was a berm that was constructed and kind of infringed on the pond in order to put a Cranberry Bog cell right there at the edge of the pond. So what we're proposing in that area is to, first of all, remove that fill and grade back that pond bank to expand the coastal plain habitat, but that doesn't actually fully address the most natural fluctuation of groundwater in the pond because it's being artificially drained by the culvert. So what is proposed, so from one aspect, some of the options that we considered is, well, we could just completely take out that culvert and just backfill it and just have it be what it is, up to levels that the water used to extend up to while it was being farmed, right? So what we're proposing is, in order to have some management options in the long term, rather than fully just removing that culvert right now, we need to continue to have vehicle access to the wildlife management area from that point because it is a critical fire road that crosses over the culvert that is at the outlet of Bartlett Pond. The culvert itself, we considered fully removing and backfilling, but if for some reason water levels in the pond back up higher than adjacent landowners might be comfortable with, we wouldn't have a way to get water out quickly. And so what we've elected to do is to kind of build in a little bit of flexibility into this part of the design and instead put boards in that culvert to the height where they would have been held during farming, which has been basically field tested for a number of years because when water levels were held to that height, the adjacent landowners weren't having issues with basements or septics, right? So it's been tested. That water level, maximum water level has been tested. But the good thing about having the water levels at that higher elevation is that was very likely the elevation that the pond levels used to get to before the Herring Creek was ditched into the side of it, which is now dropping the water level by about 4 feet than what it likely historically was. So for the benefit of rare plant species that have been documented along Bartlett Pond shore, the main goal for Bartlett Pond is increasing the water elevation there so that it can naturally fluctuate as much as possible and not be artificially drained. But by using boards instead of just immediately taking out the culvert, that enables us to really be sure of that decision to remove that culvert first and hold it at that level, be able to watch it for a few years and be just really comfortable that everyone is happy with the water levels where they're sitting. And that was a decision that everyone felt much more comfortable with.
How many homes do we have along Bartlett Pond?
Oh, there's a little more than a handful.
Because if I go down Barker, the homes are on the right are adjacent to this property. If I go past Pilgrim and keep, go down.
So if you're driving on Barker Road towards Wood Island Pond, yes, you can start to see some of the homes on
These
your right.
homes they're more like they're elevated.
Most of them are. There are a couple that are just a little bit lower down, and we did reach out to the neighbors to see whether or not any of them had had any issues with water, and we did record search as well for any permits for replacing anything, and we found no issues. There was nothing that any of the neighbors complained about. Actually, quite the opposite. The neighbors are actually really interested in raising the water levels at this site because they feel as though the water quality could be better improved with higher water elevations in the pond. And higher water, allowing that natural fluctuation, would also improve the rare plant habitat at this site.
I'm going to ask a question. Of those sites that are there, how many are cesspools and how many Title V's and Title V nitrogen reducing systems? That would be good to know because that could very well, that outflow will impact what you're trying to do. Because around Bartlett is the only place in which there are homes along this. Everything else looks like all the dwellings seem to be on the upside of Bartlett. Nothing, because if I go down Bartlett just before it turns into the dirt road, you're talking about the bogs I see on the right, correct?
Yes.
Down in the little hollow?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I know you're going to ask the sewer question too.
No.
But it is a concern.
I was going to ask a beaver question.
Oh, I'm going to cross, I keep talking.
Does anyone ever consider using beavers to control these water areas?
There are definitely some ecologists at the team that would welcome beavers coming in and helping out.
I know there are other places in the country where they've introduced pairs of beavers and they restore the wetlands almost by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question I had was, these farm ponds often are loaded with milfoil and other invasive species. When you disturb all this, are you worried about releasing propagules from milfoil and others downstream into other areas?
We're not, because by restoring the stream channel, by restoring it from, currently there's 2 stream channels, which is splitting flow. So you have lower flow in these channels that is field day for vegetation growing through. By having all that water more succinctly in a single channel and filling the other ditches, you're really pushing all of that flow into a single channel that will then be able to flow deeper and faster, that doesn't allow for those invasive plants to take hold like they would in a pond with stagnant water. And so by having that continuous channel go from White Island Pond all the way to Red Brook down below, which has been restored below our property, you have a continuous free-flowing stream channel from White Island all the way to Buttermilk Bay.
Thank you.
Jessica? Comments or questions? Paula Jean?
I love the beaver idea. You mentioned expense numerous times and the cost of excavators. Imagine the savings. Like, you know, I know we all smile and think that that's kind of cool and cute, but what would it take to actually do that?
So in this particular case, one of the primary goals for the site is fish passage.
Right.
And so we wouldn't necessarily want a beaver going in there and putting a beaver dam on Red Brook. That would be not our ideal scenario because this is such a prized stream for sea-run brook trout, which are so in decline throughout, particularly in southeastern Mass. This is like one of 3 locations in the Buzzards Bay watershed that still have sea-run brook trout. So in certain parts of the site, I would welcome beavers, but they need to stay on their side and make sure that we would need to make sure that the brook still flowed free flowing.
Well, we could stipulate conditions to the beavers, I suppose.
Michael, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, it's quite the project, I'll admit that. I guess just one quick question here. I noticed in the long document that I read that erosion control is actually mentioned a few times, but didn't mention what specific kind. Then I looked in the actual plan, which is a little more shorter, maybe 20 pages long. It mentioned that a silt fencing is going to be used. Is that correct?
I think typically it would be a silt fence or straw wattles.
All right.
Typically, we would require that the erosion sedimentation controls be in compliance with, the appropriate manuals that are available for Massachusetts. But generally, we would prefer to leave the development of those activities to the contractor. And I think the other thing that's important to note is that just topographically, the bogs are in a bowl. So there's really limited areas where we would anticipate silt getting released. I think generally how that silt and sedimentation is managed, it's on site with, silt curtains, containment cofferdams, and so on.
And I'll note that the phasing of the project is really going to be critical to keeping the work areas keeping flow through the work area is somewhat contained. So having that separate Herring Creek channel being able to flow while a lot of the other work is done is going to be key. And using the bog cells themselves, while they have berms associated with them, that is also another way in which you can use those existing dikes and basically, plugs of earth to keep water out of a work area while it's being excavated. So there are a lot of creative ways that the construction contractor can phase the work to kind of keep their excavation area dry while water is able to be routed around those particular work zones.
Christine, any comments, questions?
We have an Alex Hackman online.
Okay, Christine first, and then
So you guys have the ecological restoration notice of intent. Are you still waiting for the NHESP report to come in?
We are, yep. So we had prepared a habitat management plan specifically for Bartlett Pond because that is the one location where we do have a rare species polygon is Bartlett. And so specifically it's Plymouth gentian, a rare plant that benefits from coastal plain pond habitat and that widely fluctuating natural groundwater table. So that management plan was put together with input from a couple of our team members and include the state botanist. And currently, it's going slower than I thought it would, considering it's the agency that helped put it together is reviewing it. But they have not yet finished reviewing the management plan, so they have not yet issued a final letter. But we have, it is currently undergoing review, and a request for MISA exemption is what is being requested and anticipated.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because they're usually pretty quick about getting through things.
Okay, who's online?
Alex Hackman, he says he's with the project as well. He had his hand raised. So.
Okay, sorry.
Of course, thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Alex Hackman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I don't know how to turn my camera on, so I can't give you my face, but I am here. Let's see, stay as attendee. This is getting all kinds of prompts. I'll stay as an attendee. But good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I met most of you a couple weeks ago at Marks Cove. You might remember me partnering with Sarah at the other bog project in your town. I raised my hand simply to contribute to the beaver question, which I'll do now. I'd like to offer more general comments after the commissioners' questions as just support. But to answer the beaver question directly, we can't bring beavers. The commissioner is correct. Introducing beavers is a fantastic way of restoring wetlands. We can't move beavers here because it's not allowed by state law. I personally, managing many of these projects and wetland restoration projects across the Commonwealth, would love that to change so that we can relocate beavers, especially nuisance beavers, to drive restoration more naturally, but we can't do it. It's not allowed. In time, if beavers show up here, they will further the restoration that we're starting. And Sarah mentioned we have a difference of opinion. Well, we all share the opinion of that beavers are wonderful, but I'm a big beaver believer. And in my opinion, someday if they do show up, it'll really complete the restoration, really like it would in many of the other cranberry bog projects we've done in Plymouth and elsewhere. Because they were all over the place historically. Our whole landscape was influenced by beavers, and they've been largely removed. So anyway, beavers are great. We can't move them for state law. If they show up, it'll be great. That's
If they show up on their own, it's good.
Yes, I'll make more comments.
So we need to put a trail in to say here,
Follow
good,
this,
good
follow
fresh,
this bridge
soft
trail or
wood
something.
to keep
There
coming.
you go.
Okay.
I'll just state that beavers are my favorite rodent, and there's nothing in second place.
Me too. Agreed.
Not even capybaras?
What?
And not even capybaras are in second place?
Pretty great. Any other comments, questions?
Are we looking for to pass this tonight?
No.
Okay.
no.
To be able to pass this to-
So what is the timeline for this project?
Well, so I guess first of all, I'll defer to Sarah on when we anticipate approval, if you have that information. I know that we have a hearing scheduled with, the project does extend into Plymouth as well. So we have a hearing scheduled with Plymouth the first week of August. I assume that they will also not close the hearing the first week that it's open, so.
Yeah, I would like to have an organized visit, so work with Christine, and Christine will work for us for the best time.
That sounds great. And then beyond that, so we are then planning to submit our application packages to Army Corps of Engineers and for the state 401, Chapter 91.
That's right, yeah, Chapter 91.
So we will be going through those approvals as well, basically likely through the fall, towards the end of the year. We're hopeful to go to bid on this project by the end of the year so that we could have hopefully a spring construction start.
So is there a time you would continue to 7, when would you like to, 7/16, or do you want to continue it until sometime into August? You want to put on the calendar for 7/16 and see where we stand?
7/16.
Does it make sense to meet before they meet with?
Yes,
Do you want to meet before
yes.
or after the Plymouth
Yeah.
meeting?
Because that's coming, that's like a week.
I'm wondering if we could also coordinate our organized site walk with Plymouth.
That would be helpful too.
Yeah.
And that could be yeah, could we, what would be the next hearing date after the 16th?
August 6th, August 20.
And so the 6th is not the same day as Plymouth, right? Because Plymouth is the 5th, I think. We should double check that. Could we get back to you on that?
Well, we'll continue until the 17th, and then we'll see where you stand. If you need to continue for a different date, contact Christine, and we will continue it to a different date. But if not, nothing else on this, I'll take a motion to continue until 7/16.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We'll start with 7/16 and see where it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good fourth.
Thank you.
You as well.
What a project. I'm
It'll be great.
impressed.
And we're thrilled.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you all.
Next one, please.
All right. On the request for notice of intent for Marcella Ann Holbrook and Wayne G. Leslie, 5 Johnson Street, Wareham, Mass. Applicant is seeking permitting for a deck, shed, and porch, map 134, lot 1037, 5 Johnson Street, and motion to open the hearing.
I have a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Please identify yourself representing the project.
Good evening, Brad Bertola with JC Engineering.
Of course, this is all done.
It's been a common theme tonight,
Yes.
after the
yes.
fact filings.
But this has been done for quite a while.
Correct.
Why is it now coming before us? What prompted it?
Well, I'll
Oh, start.
chime in. I'll chime
Sorry.
in on
Okay.
that. So again, Brad Bertola for the property owner. This property is located at 5 Johnson Street, and the building commissioner, actually, Mr. Bichette was aware of this project a while ago, but the building commissioner was made aware that no permits were pulled for the proposed, or the shed that was constructed. So obviously, prior to obtaining a building permit, you need all the other local permits, and in this case here, an order of conditions. The house itself was built in 2004, and at that time, there was a pre-existing structure on the property. It's labeled where the existing deck is. It was a substantial structure. I don't have any proof of what it was, but it was on a poured concrete foundation, crawl space probably 4 or 5 feet down below grade, kind of an open hole. So as part of this project, I am presenting items that have taken place since the property owners purchased the property in 2019, because the work was done unpermitted, not just the shed that was built. So at that time, they constructed a deck over the top of that foundation as opposed to filling it in. It does allow water to drain through, so it's not an impervious structure. And as you may have seen, they built around a tree that had grown up in the foundation. So I'm pretty sure that structure hasn't been there for a good, probably 40 years. The tree is pretty sizable in that location. As for the shed itself, they constructed I think it's 16 by 20 shed. It's supported on posts, so it looks like some type of sonotube that was constructed. It has a porch on the north side that allows steps to lead down to the deck area. The work is required to have a notice of intent because there's a number of resource areas. I believe the property owners were aware of the salt marsh setback, and they knew they were really close to it. And as you can see, the salt marsh is just into, the 100-foot salt marsh setback is just into the corner of the shed. But other resource areas on the property include coastal bank, where no work is proposed or anticipated. And there's also a riverfront area here and land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's a AE, flood zone AE 14. The shed that was constructed is just slightly within the 100-foot salt marsh offset, or actually just slightly within the 100-foot riverfront offset. A little more portion of the project is within 100-foot of the salt marsh, and entirely within the 100-foot of the coastal bank. No work took place, or I'm aware of, within 30 feet of any of these resource areas since they purchased the property. The yard itself is pretty much grassed right up to the top of coastal bank. It appears that that was original when they purchased the property in 2019. There are obviously a number of various, yard items that are around the site, various seating areas, a pergola with a picnic table, and various yard items that are throughout the property. But I don't think they would be create any damage to any of the resource areas. We looked at the riverfront requirements under the Wetlands Protection Act, and on situations like this, the property owner could obtain a permit to alter up to 5,000 or 10% of 5,000 square feet of the riverfront area. This property contains just 47,661 square feet, plus or minus square feet within the riverfront area, and that extends out to the 200-foot line, which is out in the driveway area. And looking at the degraded area on the property, basically impervious areas or roofed areas, there's currently a little over 4,500 square feet, which is just below the 10% threshold on the property. I didn't include any deck area because it's pervious underneath the deck, so it does allow water to drain through. And the deck itself was constructed in a exact same footprint as a prior structure, so there's nothing was created closer to any resource areas than what currently exists. We did obtain a DEP file number today for the project. It just referenced to make sure that this project meets the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act, 310 CMR, the River Protection Act. And I think we meet that with, the max amount of degraded area. There was work done within the 100-foot riverfront area, and you can see it's that front there's a little triangular portion of the porch that's between the deck and the shed. And it's a pretty small area. I forget the exact number. I might have written it down. Might have been like maybe 14 square feet. Very, very minimal area that shouldn't have provide any impact. Actually, 91 square feet within the 100-foot. Majority of the work that took place with the shed is outside of the 100-foot riverfront area. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
We'll start with Jessica. Questions? I know, come back to me later. Scott?
I'm wondering why you're talking about the 100-foot riverfront offset. Since the bylaws and the law talk about 200-foot, which you've also marked on your plot plan. So why are you talking about a 100-foot riverfront offset?
The 100-foot's important because Wetlands Protection Act wants to maintain a 100-foot strip of vegetated area. In this case here, there's pretty much nothing up to the top of coastal bank, minus the bank and the salt marsh as naturally vegetated area. But that work did take place within the 100-foot, but it appears in areas that were probably already void of most vegetation, since it was right adjacent to the existing foundation of the former structure that was there. But yes, any work within 200 feet is under the jurisdiction of this, but nothing took place. I don't think anything, anywhere near the 200-foot took place without any permits.
You also marked on the plot plan an existing fire pit within the 30-foot no activity zone.
Correct.
Is there any plan to remove that?
Indicated it was there when they bought it.
Is not proposed to be removed. It's obviously up to the commission, but currently grassed area right now. Looked like it was just a couple seats around.
The question is, when was it there versus when our 30-foot no activity bylaw was passed?
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's dug in the ground. I think the stones are just placed on the soil.
Yeah, it looks like it's just.
The question is, they say it was there when they bought the property. The question is, when was it created versus when our bylaw? Darn, I didn't want you to hear me coughing.
So the first thing we hear then is when you say darn.
Darn, okay.
Okay.
So the owner said that that existing fire pit was there when they bought the property. The question is, when was it placed there versus our 30-foot no activity zone?
Correct, yeah. They purchased it in 2019.
From what I can see on the aerials, it looks like it's been there since at least 2017.
Since 20?
17.
17?
Yeah, but the bylaws go back well
When
beyond
did our
that.
30-foot go in? So the previous owner,
Is it a big deal, Brad, to move the fire pit?
I don't think so. If that's what the commission feels is necessary, then we've got plenty of open space in the area to relocate it. It's only
Just a
maybe
few
10
feet.
feet into the
Right.
30-foot, so it's not a,
so you're looking at moving the fire pit outside the 30-foot.
2010.
Sorry?
Looks like 2010
Yeah,
was
2010.
when the no activity zone was passed.
Okay.
Approved in October 2010.
So if this was here in 2019, when did the homeowner buy this property?
2019, so.
So we just don't know when between 2010 and 2019, this fire pit. So if it's just sitting on the soil, it wouldn't take much to move it outside the 30-foot.
That's an easy thing we
Yeah.
can add in, it sounds like to me. And the same kind of question would apply to the existing chain link fence, which is also in that no activity zone.
Again, I don't know the age of that. I know they have dogs. That definitely, and some small dogs.
Well, I was there were 4 dogs, big and little.
Yep.
So what do you want done with the chain link fence?
I don't want anything done with the chain link fence, but it falls under the same category as the fire pit, but
It'd probably do more damage to move it than to leave
that's
it.
what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
It probably shouldn't have been put there in the first place, but
Anything else? And, well, part of that chain link fence goes along the waterfront to keep the grandkids from going into the river. Because it's all along that waterfront, along the top of the coastal bank.
One gate in it.
Yeah, which probably has a safety reason for it.
Analogous to putting a fence around your pool.
That type of, yes. Anything else, Scott?
No, thank you.
Paula Jean?
No other questions.
Michael?
Same here, no other questions. It's already been addressed by starting the work early. Thank you.
Back to Jessica.
No questions.
I think we've had, Christine, any comments?
You have 91 feet of that 100-foot that's or has been altered. The reason that you haven't proposed any mitigation is because it's degraded?
Yeah, we're still within that maximum of 5,000 or 10% of the property. We're actually 10%, we're just below 10% of the riverfront area. If it had exceeded that, then I think mitigation would be required in that situation.
There's nobody here. Is there anybody online? We lost them all. So Christine, your comments? Were you satisfied with the answer?
Oh, yeah, my understanding had been that when there's when you are doing work within that 0 to 100 feet, there's mitigation that's usually required. That's why I was wondering, but I know there's a difference when it comes to previously disturbed, which this has been, and degraded. So.
Anybody else have questions or comments on this project? Okay,
Motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion to close the hearing. I
Second.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Christine, your recommendation?
Standard order of conditions with the $200 fine for doing the work before, and moving that fire pit outside of the 30-foot no activity zone.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, 500. All right.
Can I get clarification
Yes.
on the 30-foot? Is it the 30-foot salt marsh or 30-foot coastal bank? Is it? I was looking at the salt marsh, but realized there's a 30-foot.
I would go 30-foot coastal bank. So there is space to move it.
Yep, so it looks to be about 20 feet or so. Thank you.
The mover agrees with the coastal bank stipulation.
Okay. So that was the motion, a standard order of conditions, $200 fine, and moving the fire pit outside the 30-foot coastal bank. I need a motion.
Didn't we already vote on it?
I can't,
We just
No.
voted on it.
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Now, second, now we voted on closing the hearing. I don't remember voting on the,
I thought we did.
We did.
Fire pit.
okay, then, never mind. Vote one more time, 5-0. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, thank you, 500. I was going to say, don't do any work, but
Yeah.
get your documentation for Chris, because that will make building department happy.
Yeah, they still have to move forward with the building permit application now.
Yes, because I think everything's been on hold when I looked online.
Yeah, 'cause they haven't finished a couple of the structures still, right? Like the deck is still in progress, I think.
For the most part, the structure itself is still not weather tight. I don't know how much more is necessary, but
What, the shed?
the shed, yeah, it's still
Well, they're trying to
side.
repair damage from the squirrels
Squirrels, yeah.
that came through the roof.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
All righty, I appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
here we go. We have 9 15th Street, looking for a formal letter to withdraw.
Still waiting for that letter.
And part of that means they have to remove what has been built. So it isn't just the formal letter, it's removing. So we're going to continue until the 16th, and that's it. Anything after the 16th we don't receive, I think we start fining them for not doing anything. Is that, there is a, sorry.
Really?
This has been continuing for quite a while.
And aren't there still, by those steps, bags of debris and trash
And broken down,
all kinds of,
and new wood and stuff
that all
like
has
that.
to go, right?
That area has to be cleaned up along with a letter of withdrawing it. So, and we continue into the 16th. So
So moved.
thank you. All in, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is a letter to withdraw and requirement to clean it up. The next one is 28 Nelson Street, and let me find my notes.
Can we continue to 8/6?
Yeah, they're continued August 6th.
Wait, where's my notes? We continued it until 7/2, and, right, we continued it until 7/2, and they're requesting it to be continued until when?
8/6, I wrote here, which I either got from you or from
Yeah.
Christine.
Yeah, it's August 6th.
Okay, so I'll need that motion.
Motion to continue till August 6th.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, continued order 6. 3 Green Street, Safe Harbor, that's already been continued until the 16th. The 29 Camp Street, Cabral, has been continued until 7/16 already. Kevin Walsh, 2731, they want a continuance until 7/16.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 7/16. Andrews, 7 Burgess Point, they wanted it was continued to the 16th, but they requested, no, 7/16 is done. So that 8/6 should have gone to that one. Okay. Now, next thing on the agenda. We have a certification of compliance. You're up, Christine.
For SE 762714, recommend an issuance of certificate of compliance.
So moved.
I have
Second.
a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Next thing down, we did get minutes for June 18th, but they came today, and Christine, I'm going to give you my notes on them. It's just that it says all parties are sworn in before testifying, that's got to be removed, and I would like on the front page under roll call that arrived at 6:45. It is in the minutes, but I would prefer to have it up front, so I make sure I give you this on it. Now, minutes. I've gone through my agendas, and I don't have any minutes for May 21st.
I think she's still working on those. It was a longer meeting.
Okay, I don't have any minutes for April 30th. That was a workshop. I don't know if it was recorded or not. Let me know if it's not recorded, then I will do minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I'll have to double check.
You're
but I
not-
don't
you're-
really
all right.
know if that one.
I think that was, I'll give that to Christine. Okay, we have, anything else on here? At the end of each fiscal year, the start of each fiscal year, we revote our chair, vice chair, and clerk, and it needs to be put on the agenda for the next time. I can't cover it as appointments, interviews, and reappointments. So it really needs to be focused as an activity to confirm, reaffirm the chair, vice chair, and clerk. We'll do that at 7:16 minutes. It can be placed on the agenda and handled that way. Is there anything from anybody else?
Is there any way we can increase the fines? Is that limited by
Nope,
the law?
nope. Josh put out a couple months ago a pretty detailed spreadsheet of the fines for the Cape communities.
I remember he put out the fees for application, but not the fines.
Weren't they fines on there too?
I think that was a different,
Oh.
it was a different kind of.
I always thought the fines were limited by the state, but then I got some information that it wasn't, so we could very well consider, are the fines in our bylaws or regulations?
So there's fines in our bylaws, but I believe there's also fines in the regulations as well, but those are different.
Something to look at.
So, $200, the worst part of the $200 is having to come to Wareham to pay, to the town hall to pay it. It is less than a mosquito bite for these homeowners.
There's 4 cups of coffee at Starbucks.
Grandes.
It's less than the CPA, yeah.
So we need to do, I mean, the fines for the building department or the inspectional services is 3 times the cost of the permit. Maybe we could do something like that. So if someone starts building and they get caught, a neighbor calls, whatever, then the inspectional services will figure out what the cost of the permit would have been, and sometimes it's very substantial, and it's 3 times that cost. So instead of having a flat 200 if it would be permitted and 300 if it wouldn't be permitted, if we have some floating fee like that, so if it's a construction project, then something like 3 times the cost of the building permit. That might be a little bit more impactful.
Well, it certainly would be more of a deterrent, I think, than rather than just the inconvenience of the business decision to say, the gentleman this evening who said, oh, yes, we talked about it, but I decided it was better just to finish it. And if it's $1,000, it's different than if it's $200.
Although in that case, he already knew he was getting fined, so it was irrelevant if they
Whether it be
finished
1,000 or 200, he would have been
Right.
hit with it anyway.
Yeah, we
I mean
recently,
that at 200, it's not much of a deterrent.
it's not a deterrent at
No,
all.
not at all. But I really blame the people doing the work, the contractors who go ahead and do it because their client wants it done, as opposed to, they know we're wetlands. If they're do work in Wareham, they know they've got a force, and they want to satisfy the homeowner, and said, okay, because at one time, we were fining the homeowner and the construction company, and we were told we couldn't do that.
Really? Because that would seems like
No, we were told we
it's
couldn't
two
do that.
different infractions.
No,
Well, it's really the same. If you find one or the other, it doesn't matter, because if you find the contractor, the homeowner's going to pay anyhow,
yep.
because that'll be built into the final
The
cost.
homeowner, they's gonna make the contractor pay.
So I don't care whether it's the contractor or the homeowner who pays, but we want some dissuasive power in whatever the fines are going to be. I would like to actually lower the application costs to make it easier for people who don't have the means to apply, but then to really juice up the fines.
I like that.
Well, our application costs are one of the lowest in the area.
I know.
When I look and see all those checks that they show in the application, I'm like, oh, this really adds up.
NOI is expensive, and Christine, aren't we about to do away with RDAs and have to do NOIs for decks and stuff?
Well, we're not gonna completely get rid of RDAs. It's just that currently the state is doing or reviewing performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage. So that's gonna be more of a serious thing now. So more than likely, we'll have to be doing notices of intent for pretty much every project in land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Which requires engineering then, right? So that, I think, is part of what's really expensive for regular homeowners is the engineering.
Yeah, that engineering plan and all that stuff that goes with it.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that long ago we did our fines, and I can't find the paperwork. How long ago did we do the fines, Michael?
Denise worked on
Because
it.
Denise and I did it like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I would say maybe 2022, I believe it was.
Because I know we did the fines.
And we kind of, we tried to match them with other towns in the region, made them comparable. We don't make them as high or as low, or rather, as the other towns, just try to make them pretty much similar, let's just put it that way.
So like comps in real estate,
Yeah.
but maybe we should lead the way. So I'll just give you an example. Where we previously lived, they made it free for people to use the municipal dump or transfer station, mattresses, furniture,
So it doesn't go on the side
everything.
of the road.
Otherwise, it would go on the side of the road. And they really cranked up the fines for illegal dumping. And the net result was, as you can imagine, a lot less trash dumped on the sides of the roads. So it actually reduced the cost to the maintenance services because they didn't have to go around with dump trucks picking up everyone's furniture and mattresses and crap on the side. Can we say crap on the line?
Yeah.
On the side of the road. So that's where I'm kind of thinking we need to, in a general sense, move in that direction.
But have we ever fined somebody for dumping on the side of the road because
Catch 'em.
we have to catch them?
You might catch them more, though, if the other people are schlepping their stuff to the dump, and they're gonna be resentful of someone dumping it beside of the road, because
Oh.
fewer people will be dumping it, so
I saw
they'll
that,
be the outlier.
yeah, I saw that chair in Joe's house, now it's on the side of the
Right,
road.
exactly.
Okay,
It's worth some thought, in my opinion.
I think,
where do we stand with our regulations? Was there a meeting last week?
no, we still,
Okay.
we're gonna meet at least one more time, right?
Yeah, and, Josh told us he would hang in there with us on these rules and regulations until they were finished. We really do need to have him participating in these. He's the one who has been making the changes as we recommend and so
And
on.
I think we could wrap it up with one big,
I think we
one more
could
big
too.
dose.
So Christine, see if you can get together and have a meeting for the review of the rest of the regulations.
Yeah, I'll see if I can coordinate it with Josh too,
Yeah.
so that he's able to actually come.
Before what we already did becomes obsolete, we'll have to start at the
Start over
beginning.
again, yeah.
Circular, ongoing.
Anything else? So we want to look at the fines.
Is that a workshop item, or is that a public hearing item?
Well, we can do it at a workshop, then bring it to public hearing when we have a decision as opposed to discussions.
Very good.
So if we can come to a conclusion at a workshop, then we can bring it out in the public. Anything else?
We also talked about a workshop to review this idea of amphibious tractors for lake and pond cleaning
Right.
as a possible alternative to herbicide use.
I know you sent out the email. I'm going to send it to the people at camp,
Okay,
but we weren't going to
that's why I'm bringing it up now, because if we're going to have a workshop agenda, maybe that would be one of the things we would have
So
on
one of the
there.
workshop things, look at the fines, where we are with regulations, and pond cleanup.
If we do all three in one, that should.
No,
go in
that's,
evening.
that would be more than one evening, I think yeah. So, yes, we'll definitely remember we have to take a look at the possibility of doing a pond cleanup without using chemicals.
Yeah, or greatly reducing the amount of chemicals,
Yeah.
you know.
But if that, as I said, I'll pass that email off to the people from CAMP so they're aware of it.
Yeah.
It's on my list of to-do things.
Thank you, Sandy.
Okay. We have documents to sign. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn at
Second.
7:54.
9:54. Looks like it. And a second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you very much and good night. Thank you, everyone.